what's going on? And he goes, bear. I said, bear? He goes, bear everywhere. Have you ever seen a bear hopped up on gasoline? Second only to shooting a bear that's hopped up on gasoline. Boom! And boom! Here we are laying in the bottom of this cabin, and these guns are going off. We have no idea what's going on, you know. And the moose is running through the woods, dragging this rope and dragging a boat because he's already knocked the other two guys out. I'm being hunted, in essence, by this wild boar because bears are like ghosts. Something had moved the cabin, and I thought, this is not good. It's like, how can I hunt something that in essence hunts me?
What is up, everybody? We are back for another round. That's right, for another round of the Big Game Chronicles here. Based on the success of the first three that we did and the response we got from everybody, we thought it was fitting to come on back and visit my dad again. So, we're just going to let him take it away and tell some more of his fantastic stories. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Dad?
Hey, you know, I got about 1,000 stories for 1,000 different ways that things that we've done over the years. And I just tell you, I really never was into too much of that. My father was really into the hunt thing, and so that's how I kind of got into it, was because I wanted to get closer to my father. And that's how we did it. And he liked to do adventures, and I liked to do adventures. But we took it to the whole new level. Well, I want to tell you about that boar hunt that I referred to last time in the video that we did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get a chance to finish that whole piece. And the boar hunt was really cool for me because what I like to do, I like the historical background of different animals and that kind of thing. And somewhere I saw a movie or read something about wild Russian boar. And when I started asking questions about that, nobody knew anything about it. Nobody did any kind of hunt like that. Nobody had anything like that. You had to go to Russia to do it. So I began to do a little research in it, and I found that there was this guy who lived up in New Hampshire. And he really got into this Russian boar thing and imported a bunch of Russian boars into the United States. And this is back in the early 1900s. And so when he did that, what he tried to do was to kind of collect these animals, and he was kind of fascinated by them in kind of a zoo type option, you know,
Sure.
that kind of thing. What he decided to do was to have the animal. Well, the animals kept getting out because these boars were like, you saw a fence, they go right through it. I mean, you know, they were like a buffalo. Did I ever tell you about the buffalo? Well, I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, but the wild boar would find himself kind of going through the fences, and all of a sudden he got into real trouble. And finally the people said, okay, you're gone, you need to leave. So he said, I don't want to be around people anymore. So he finds a place, of all things, down in Tennessee, a place called Tellico Junction, Tennessee. Now, I've never heard of the place at all, and they really don't have a lot of things going on there, maybe a deer, that kind of thing. But for some strange reason, they've got this area that the guy bought that has purebred, you know, last bastion, genetically pure Russian boars, black. And I'm like, oh man, I would sure love to go hunt one of those. So I got a hold of the guy, talked to him. He goes, yes. He said, if you want to, he said, you can come. You know, I said, my father would like to come too. He said, no problem. He said, I got an opening. But the only opening I've got to come, he said, is 2 days before Christmas. And I thought, uh-oh, because my whole family come down to where we were in Kentucky because at that point we were waiting for my first son to be born. That would be Josh, your brother. And I thought, I got to find a way to kind of get my wife into the understanding that I'm going to take this boar hunt, you know, and I get my father down there and it's like, hey Dad, guess what I got for you for Christmas? A boar hunt. Yay, when do we go?
Did you end up, just so I'm clear,
Yes.
is the boar hunt over Christmas? Like you're going to miss Christmas too?
We had Christmas that morning and then we left.
So you were gone for actual Christmas Day?
We were gone for Christmas Day.
Okay.
It was a little bit of a challenge for us, but
okay.
And people didn't quite understand. But for those of us who wanted to get in this wild boar hunt, we had to find some way in order to make this happen to get there.
Gotcha.
So we go down to Tellico Junction, Tennessee. We get there, and it's an amazing place. And we start to meet some of the people that were there, and colorful characters I always talk about. But one of the characters there was this guy who was the dude who was my guide. And he was so funny, you know. But he used to go, I love to hunt boar. I love to hunt boar. That's what he'd say all the time. We'd say to him, are these any good? I love to hunt boar, he'd say. And I remember he'd always talk about that, and he was ravenous about it. Anytime we talk about it, he goes, when can we go? You know, he always wanted to be going and all that kind of stuff. So he said, okay, well, you have to explain to us how we're going to hunt these things. He said, well, let me tell you. He said, there's three things you need to know about wild boar. Number one is, he said, they're mean, real mean. Now, I tried to understand through the tenor of his voice exactly whether he meant that they were mean, or mean. I soon understood there was a Tennessee way of saying mean that meant they really were. And I said, how mean are they? And he goes, look at this. And he pulls his pant leg up, and there are holes punched through his leg. I mean, not that I could see daylight through some, but some were really deep. And I said, what are those? He goes, well, he said, wild boar have these long tusks. Then he said, what they do is they come and they'll run at you, and then when they get next to you, they'll bump you. And when they do, these tusks come up in you. He said, you can tell how many boar I've been around. I said, do you have a lot of people have a problem with that? He goes, he said, I just want you to know they're mean. But he said, the idea is you just don't try to get around them. And I said, well, okay, but I don't get around them. He goes, the other thing is, he said, in fact, they're mean. And the second thing is they're fast. They're real fast. Now, I begin to understand, when this guy talks about mean and fast, I better listen to what the guy's telling me, because, I mean, this may be something important for me to learn. I've never hunted anything like this before.
They're dangerous, too.
Absolutely. I hunted bear. I talked about that. But I'm telling you, talk about an animal that is fierce, an animal that is really a way that, I mean, it is mean, are these wild boar. And fast. It kind of matches up to, not quite, but almost like a bear will run sometimes. Bear can be unbelievably fast. Short bursts, it can take off and beat. You got to be careful. Right, so we're getting down there and ready to hunt these boars. And he said, that's it. First of all, said they're mean. Second of all, he said, they are fast. And he said, the third thing, I'll tell you when you need to know. And I thought, whoa. Yeah, so we get up the next day. He said, what we're going to do is, he said, we're going to go to the top of a high bluff overlooking a little path that runs down below. What we're going to do is have some other guys have some dogs. They're going to be able to move and drive any of the wild boar in the area. So they'll come out down this little path. He said, but we're going to set up way up on a hill. Be careful. And then we're going to look down on those boar when they come through. He said, and if you find a big one that's coming through, especially the Russian boars, which are about 1/3 body and 2/3 head. I mean, unbelievable length to these boars.
These Russian boars, they look different than the other wild boars, right?
Absolutely.
So you can tell.
Oh my goodness.
The difference.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
You've seen a hog or a pig, with the type of body it has. You got about 2/3 body and about 1/3 of a head.
Yeah.
These things have 1/3 of a body. They look rather Chernobyl, deformed. I mean, they got this long neck to them, and it comes down to a long snout. And then they have something that normally you don't see. You have little tusks. These things have giant tusks. It kind of reminds you of a warthog, in Africa. What the length of those things?
We had this thing hanging on my wall growing up.
Oh, yeah. It kept you from, kept you being nice. I mean, we'd say to you...
It was a terrifying animal.
I
loved it, though.
It was, and I would make the noise of a wild boar, and I'd do this, and you'd used to cry, and then we'd say, oh, okay, it's just no.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah, but my wife used to tell me, she used to go, take that thing off the wall. You're scaring the children. She'd say, I get up in the middle of the night, and I come into the room, and all of a sudden this thing is staring at me in the middle of the night.
It was beautiful. I loved it.
It was a great thing. I mean, it was a perfect thing, but it has this unusual look to it. That sets it apart from anything else. So there we are on the side of the hill, looking down.
So you're looking for that one in particular.
Oh, I'm looking for that one. Okay. I'm looking for exactly what I want. I'm looking for one that is pure black. I'm looking for one that's got the longest tusks I can find. So I'm looking down the path. We're right on the top. The guide's sitting next to me, and we're watching as they go by. And all of a sudden, we hear that noise that they're coming and all this kind of stuff. But there's only like one or two that goes by. I said to him, where are all the boar? He goes, uh-oh. I go, what's that? He goes, well, they didn't go down on the path. They're coming over the top of the hill. They're coming over on us. And I said, what? He goes, yep. He said, that's not good. And I said, what do we do? He said, every man for themselves. Find a tree. I said, find a tree? What? Wait a minute. What is this all about? He said, find it. I've talked about wanting to be front page adventure, wild card. This is like the wild card. And so all of a sudden I go, what? And he goes, just find a tree and climb it. Well, the trees were like these little sapling type things. They were big enough to hold you but you had to climb up in them a little ways. So everybody was trying to jump and get into a tree. And like the guy didn't help me up in my tree. He was like, "You're all for yourself." I said, "I can't get up. I got my black powder gun with me." He said, "Just throw it on the ground." He said, "Forget that. Get up in the tree." So I'm up in the tree, and all of a sudden, here come these boars. And I mean, a wild boar. They're big. They are giant hogs. I mean, they're not like what we normally see. And this thing comes along and he gets underneath the tree. Like he gets underneath the tree I'm at and he just kind of throws his head, and making this noise, and popping his jaw kind of thing. And I thought, oh man, what in the world? And I'm looking at him, and so it goes 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. And we're still up in the tree and that hog's still underneath now imagine this. This boar is underneath this tree. Can't climb it, thank goodness.
Is he looking up at you?
I'm looking and I'm watching him and I'm thinking, why is he standing near this tree? And the guy just says to me, he goes, they have a tendency to kind of wait for you. That's number 3. I go, what? He goes, they wait for you to come down out of the tree. I go, you got to be kidding. He goes, no. He said, that's one of the issues. He said, they wait for you. Now, I'd never heard of that before. Of course, I had never heard anything about wild boar hunting, but when the guy said he'd come down the tree and he's going to wait for me, I'm just a little on the nervous side, etc. So we're sitting up in the tree, and that sapling, would start to turn a little bit, kind of twist, wind would blow. Yeah. It'd kind of move me like this, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, if I fall to the ground, what do I do? I'll run. Nope, that's number 2. I can't run. Forget that. What do I do? Maybe you'll be kind. Nope, that's number 1. He's mean. Okay, this is not working out. Oh, man, I tell you, you talk about cold sweat. I mean, I'd never been in that kind of an experience before. For an animal to actually come, most animals will run from you, let alone come to you, except for a polar bear or a grizzly. But I thought to myself, man, what in the world is this thing? I mean, but I don't have a gun. I've got nothing. I don't have a knife. I have nothing, I'm thinking I'm going to be sitting on the side of a hillside looking down over some animals that go by me. Instead, now I'm up a tree. I'm being hunted, in essence, by this wild boar. Anyway, the whole thing goes on. Finally, it gets done. We climb down out of the tree and everything else. He goes, wasn't that fun? I said, your idea of fun and mine are not the same. I said, I thought we'd be more. I said, we'll try something the next couple of days. Well, the next couple of days, we finally ended up, I was standing there and this boar came out. It was the end of a kind of frosty morning, And I came walking up this little path, and we were looking on both sides.
Was this Christmas Day or Christmas Eve? Or?
This is like the day after Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we go walking out, and I come walking up the path, and as I did, all of a sudden I look, and out of the mist, this is like a movie, coming out of the mist comes this black boar, and he is big. He is big black boar. And I think to myself, uh-oh. First thing I thought was, there's a tree. Okay, I got that figured out. And then the next thing I thought, I can take this wild boar and see what goes on, etc. And that boar, man, I'm telling you, he just started that little trot right towards me, and I thought, okay, this is...
He came after you.
We did. He's come, and he just started making that fast little move. And I thought, I've got the gun. I'm going to make the shot. So I pulled the gun up. Now remember, what am I hunting with? I'm hunting with a black powder gun. Now, if there's a fun thing you need to know about black powder guns is that got the little nipple thing you put on. You pop the trigger, and all of a sudden you pull the trigger, and then the explosion goes off, and then the bullet comes out in the end. But something a little bit different than a normal rifle. There's a cloud of smoke that comes out. Now, this smoke cloud is big. This smoke cloud is large. It encompasses an area that doesn't allow you to see what's in front of you.
It's funny you say it, because I'm working on a different video right now, but it just made me think of it. But in Africa, when they would hunt big game in Africa, turn of the century with these big elephant guns, they'd fire, they'd have this cloud of smoke, and the primary sources from the time would say that these guys would shoot their gun at like a charging something, and then after they'd shoot it, they'd run around the smoke so they could see if they hit whatever it was that they shot at, because they can't see a thing after you fire it. Nothing.
Ditto.
Same deal.
Ditto. Only I didn't run around the smoke.
You ran up the tree.
I was ready to run up the tree and try to blow the smoke out of my breath. But I looked, and there the animal had dropped, and I thought, oh, man.
So you dropped him.
Yeah, I did. It was a great thing. And I tell you, it was amazing. And I'll never forget it when they brought it back, they would leave the animal, kind of hang, etc. But I'm telling you, it was such a large animal and so dangerous looking. Well, you saw the head and those tusks that were there, not to scare a kid, it also scares an adult,
Yeah.
It was really one of those things. But I tell you, wild boar hunting was absolutely unbelievable. I've only done it a couple of times. I haven't done it a lot. But every time it has absolutely paid its weight in gold. In fact, I said to someone one time, I said, if you can't get the money together to go to a wild boar, to a bear hunt, then go to a wild boar hunt, because it'll be the same kind of adventure, the same type of adventure that you're going to have when you go for a when you go for a bear. Only thing is, I wouldn't do number 3 if I was bear hunting, because they have a tendency to climb up the tree,
right.
rather than you being able to be the only one up the tree at the same time and wait for you. They don't. They just come up and find you and let you get out of the tree. So anyway, it's another story for another time.